CL, hello, and welcome to Double Feature Movie Club. This is our final episode of the season. It is our 55th episode, and we're talking about two movies that are period pieces that we've had on our list for some time, and we are talking about them now. That is 20th Century Women from 2016 and Phantom Thread from 2017. Those are the two films that we're watching here on the final episode, and I am joined, as always, with my co-host, Diane. How you doing, Diane?
I'm great, Cade. I am actually feeling wonderful.
Oh.
However, I have to ask you, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling better now. I guess we'll say this past week I have been dealing with COVID. So this is the first time I've gotten it, which is that's new. It's new territory. But it's I'm on the upswing, I guess you could say, and everything. So just been isolating and everything. Pretty certain I got it from going to the movie theater and seeing the Iron Claw and being behind this family that were coughing for the entire film. So I'm pretty upset with them because no one else I know has it or got it. So that's where I think I got it from. And in all honesty, I wouldn't catch it any other way. Because we have, I think, just for content's sake for this podcast, I think it makes sense that I would get it from a really awful fellow patron of the cinema, because we always have these great stories of these people.
Well, I'm so glad I was not with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're not there either. Yeah.
I am still a COVID virgin, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Yes. Oh, here's some. Here's my Bigfoot guy. I'll just
knock on him.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. That's a lot. Yeah, because I was surprised when you said you had COVID because we'd had dinner a few nights before, and give me adjusted there. And with Harrison, so I sent a text to Harrison and said, "Harrison, Cade has COVID. Do you?" Took him a day to respond, so then I knew he was probably in the hospital or something. But no. He said he was fine.
That's how Harrison responds to texts, always.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to it's like sending like a carrier pigeon over there.
Yeah.
To him. Yeah. Mm.
Especially one that's like, Cade has COVID to you.
Yeah.
But anyway. So,
yes, that was the day before that I think I had to have gotten it. But yeah, we had dinner. That was a good dinner.
We did. We went to
lasted me for days.
Well, it was a good one to have to go out on. The Palace Cafe, which is just one of Tulsa's finest, restaurants. And it was the last few days of its existence. And we got in there. Of course, they were just slammed once the news broke that they were closing. So that kind of hurt it a little bit in quality. But even then, the quality of their food and service is so much better than anywhere else. So.
And they had to get rid of all of their, I guess, their storage or whatever, the food that they had and all that. So
they gave us all those desserts. I was like, oh yeah, we can box these up and take them home. It'll be wonderful.
Yes. So, did you eat on those desserts?
For a couple of days, yeah. Glad they were with me and not you.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't go to the movies with you. If I haven't said that, I'm going to make sure I say that. Yeah.
It was awful because, so what happened there, I'll explain it all with these people because it was a father, it was a pair of parents, a father and a mother. And then I think they had 2 or 3 kids, but this was the youngest kid that they had. There was no problem for the first half of this movie. They were sitting there, they were enjoying it. I mean, it was odd that they took their kid to see this. It was a family outing to see the Iron Claw.
Well, they might be big time WWE,
or whatever. Yeah, that time period. But yes,
whatever. Yeah.
But the father definitely was.
Yeah.
I don't
believe it's real.
Yeah. And so
we all know people. We all have people in our lives that believe that stuff is real.
Yes. Which, I mean, that's part of the movie as well. It's like, obviously that's part of it. But anyways,
behind the veil.
Yes. and that, they'll sit there and they'll talk about the plan of what the fight's going to be and how they're going, and what's the whole thing going to be. And then like, they go out on stage and they're like yelling at the person and they're like, and we hate you and all that. And then they go behind the scenes and they're like, that was a great fight. It was a good movie. I did enjoy it. It wasn't, I thought it might be in my top 10 before seeing it. After seeing it, I think there was a better way to sort of tell some aspects of it. But I still really enjoyed it. And Zac Efron, he's routinely just, I think, a really good actor. And I just am waiting for him to get these roles that are, that sort of showcase how good he is. I think this, Neighbors, both of them really showcase his ability to do really great roles. And I do think that he maybe should get nominated for that performance because it's a really good performance. And it,
good for him.
Yeah, it's just I kind of always wish some things he has. We're still waiting on the role,
the big one.
Yeah.
He was probably thinking this one might be it.
Yes.
And then how is the guy from The Bear?
He's really good.
Yeah.
It's tough because at many points it seems like the movie should be his movie and not Zac Efron's movie from the character perspective, because he's the one that kind of goes on this more interesting journey at times. But he comes late into the movie because you'll see he wasn't really there with them at the point the movie started. And then the way they tell it's so bizarre of like this stuff that happens without going into spoilers of this real life events.
Because I would like to see this movie.
Yes. But there are things that's like, why did we skip over stuff? Like that should have been where we kind of focused on that character, because that at many points is the more interesting character, and we don't focus on it. So just kind of an odd choice when the first half of the movie is so sort of methodical with how it tells the story, and it's very like you see every step of the way what's happening and the decisions made and what people are feeling and everything. But by the second half of the movie, it becomes like a clip show of their lives, and we're like speeding through it, and it's like, this is the interesting parts. Why are we speeding through this? Like we're trying to like get to an ending.
Evidently only interesting to you.
But I think that's what most people know. If they know the story, they know that portion of their life. So that might be the reason that they're kind of speeding through it. But they have a very specific audience. Yes, and so that was odd to that, and so that was I think the biggest fault of the movie is like they should have either sped up the beginning or slowed down where they kind of felt of the same thing. But no, that was the point. And then the kid left and started, and then the kid left. Here's like a girl. She just leaves, and like I guess go to the restaurant. I don't know, by herself. Her parents don't care, and then she comes back. And then by the time she's coming back, she's like coughing and everything. And then she coughs once, and then the mother kind of coughs, and then the daughter takes it as, oh, I can cough all the time I want now. And so then she's just like openly coughing, and no one ever tells her to, hey, stop, or can you slow it down a little bit, or cover your mouth, or do you need
put your shirt over your head?
Yeah. Do we need to leave? I don't know. So yes, so that happened. So that's that movie. Anything? So we've, just so the audience is aware, we haven't been on air for a few weeks. We took a little break for Christmas and shooting some of our other things and everything. Alex was in town, and we shot some Cade and Friends. And if you haven't watched the Cade and Friends holiday special that we did, you should definitely watch that. That's
because the production value of that is out of this world. Deserves an Oscar, let me tell you, or a nomination. A
nomination, yeah. Yeah, no. So we shot it at Diane's house during her Christmas party, and it was really fun. That was one of my favorite episodes that we do every year, and it's really fun. We bring in people for just 10-minute segments. So people we've had here on this show, people that's been on Cade and Friends a lot. Harrison's on there, former co-hosts and hosts of this very program here. If you're a fan of this, the history of this program here, you could see some other people that have appeared. So yeah, no, it's a great.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah.
I just love how we obviously, so Andrew Ken has been on Cade and Friends and has been obviously been on here before, years ago, but on camera, seemingly you and Kenna and Andrew haven't been on camera for many years. I just love that some people, if people only know us from this thing, they may think that there's some sort of contentious thing or something there, but there's not. We're all friends and we're all around. So
just because we haven't been on camera together.
Yeah. I love to hear in my head the if there's an audience there that's like, wait, well, why do they know each other? Do what do they think of each other?
Are they the same person that's just dressed up?
Yeah.
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 I can see that.
Yeah. I
can definitely see that. Yeah. We were having Ken and I were having a great time when Andrew was in there talking to you guys, and you could, I listened to it and as a podcast, and you can hear us in the background.
Yes.
I mean, we were having quite the party without you guys.
Yeah.
So like 2 parties happening in my house, and one was a whole lot of fun.
One was on camera. Was okay.
I know. But yeah, we were having quite the time in there. You can hear us.
Yeah, and in the part that when we joined back, I really enjoyed us being over there too. That was really fun. And
it was, a lot of people may or may not realize that we all know each other because we've been on a trivia team together for years. And we try to support each other's, whatever they have going on, whether it's a gallery show in Andrew and Kenna's case or, whatever is going on, we try to support each other, even though, we are all from different generations and walks of life and everything else, so.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a fun get together. I enjoy that one. I do a lot of activities, and that one to me is one that's the most fun. Because I know I'm going to laugh. I mean, let's face it. You guys are fun, and
yes. And I think that was it was fun, even just like the podcast version of it, where we get to kind of talk through and to these different people and just do these different bits, and it's
Liz pretty much wiped you guys up on the floor. I mean, she is so funny.
I want Liz on there for some time, and I
deadly funny. Funny.
The tree bit of alone with her and Alex and everything. I don't think I said too much in it because it was hilarious seeing these two forces like hit each other, and I so if you haven't seen it, Liz's portion, I am out of it because it was one of the hardest I've ever like laughed, and I just like out of body experience of just how hilarious that section of the pod, which we have turned into a few different TikToks and stuff. So check it out for just that portion.
You definitely want to catch the TikToks on Instagram or TikTok, on that particular of Liz, because, oh gosh, you guys were so outclassed. She is so funny.
She is. I love Liz a lot. And I loved everyone we had on. I thought, Harrison's is funny too. And so
old Dusty Veins.
Old Dusty Veins.
Poor Harrison.
Well, great. I mean, like I said, we've been off a few things. I was just going to see anything else. Anything I've watched. Like I said, I watched The Iron Claw. Not a great experience in the theater. I watched Poor Things. I might save my thoughts on that film because we may talk about that in the next season, being that it's going to be nominated for a few Oscars, and we might rewatch it.
Yeah, let's do, because I do want to see that and talk to you about that one.
Yeah, I mostly watched it because I wanted to see if it would end up in my top 10 list, and it did not. But I'm saving all my thoughts on that. But if you also, follow on my Instagram, I did post my top 10 movies of the year, and I do that every year. And so check that out. Some of the ones we talked about on this season in Double Feature Movie Club ended up on that top 10 list. Yeah, there were some
good ones on there. I liked your top 10. There was one that you had listed that I started watching this afternoon. It got interrupted because I really wanted to watch it. The Creator, I think it's what it's called.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because it was on your top 10, and I thought, well, You know, it's right, sci-fi. It's right up my alley anyway. But yeah, that I thought, well, if Cade liked this has got to be good. So
I loved it, and that's one of those ones I go around and talk to people about. Of just like, this was made on such a small budget. There's two films that's on my top 10 that should make all, like, how do these Hollywood movies that are made for like hundreds of millions of dollars look so bad in comparison to The Creator and to Godzilla -1? Both of these movies were made with much smaller budgets, and they just look absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And I mean, some people can talk about how exactly that was and everything, and how, whatever. I mean, I don't know enough, and I do have COVID brain, so I can't. So, but there's reasons for it. Yeah. But the words aren't coming to me.
and we can talk about it more whenever we do the, we talk about the top 10s. I watched Heart of Stone.
Heart of Stone.
That with Gal Gadot.
Okay,
so it did terrible with the
is it Netflix?
It's got it's on Netflix. It's at 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. But and probably because women as action stars are not much fun for people. If it's Tom Cruise who done this movie, of course it'd be worth millions, but she is so good as an action star, though. I got to give her credit for that. That James, what's his name? Jamie Dornan. He's in this movie as well. I don't want to give too much of it away, but I recommend watching it. It may only have 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, but boy, pop you some popcorn, sit down with Netflix, get your blankie, and watch that movie. It was so fun.
So what is she in this?
Stunts. She's a spy. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Best way to say that. Let me put it that way.
I don't want
to give it. I don't really want to talk about too much of it, but it is definitely a thriller. What do they call it? Just to make sure. I think you would enjoy it. She's an intelligence operative, is what they called her.
Awesome.
Okay, I like that. So epic, intense, and slick.
Anyway. No, I'll check.
I like her. I like her in that kind of role too. She pulls it off.
I liked her there's this whole other thing of just, of people saying that there's a lot of people who don't like her acting and everything. But I love, Wonder Woman. I liked both Wonder Womans. I don't care what people say. I liked 1984.
I liked them both. Yeah. I liked it because I had the plane, the invisible plane. I love that. That was just like wonderful. Thank you for bringing me this from, my life. I love that so much. But I like her in that role of an action star. I don't know if it's
in Fast and Furious too. I loved her in Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
But she's back. If you haven't seen the last Fast and Furious, she's at the end of it saying, I'm alive somehow, because everyone doesn't die in that.
Yeah, you can't. It's not allowed.
Yeah.
Not allowed to die, the Fast and Furious stuff. But and then I watched again, because I'd seen it before, The Old Guard with Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
I think I was just in the mood for women as action stars, maybe. I don't know, but I just love her in these roles.
Oh, Charlize is amazing.
What was the movie where the staircase fight scene?
Oh, Atomic Blonde.
Oh, one of my favorite scenes of all time. You got it?
I do. I don't.
The Atomic Blonde. Boy, what a great movie. Anyway, in The Old Guard, which is going to have a second, it was set up to have a sequel. Well, the sequel's been filmed and it's supposed to come out in, next year, 24.
I thought I had it on Blu-ray. I only have it on DVD.
Oh, well. Atomic Blonde, man. It was so good. Yes. Anyway, so I think I was just in the mood for that. And then I watched the Killing Fields. Every once in a while, I love to get a hold of a documentary. Like I watched Yogi Berra's story. I mean, I love that. And Michael Fox. But the Killing Fields, and Ron Howard and his producing partner produced that. And
Brian Grazer or whatever.
Yeah.
Glazer.
Yeah. And I don't remember how many episodes it was because I just binged it. But it was really good. But the I-45 corridor of killing down there in
I need to
Texas,
watch them. Yeah.
Really, really good. Anyway, so that's between my true crime addiction that I have and the women as action heroes. I've had a pretty good, interesting week.
And while I was out, one of the things I watched was, oh my God, the Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke.
Leave the World Behind.
Leave the World Behind. Yes.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last one. I read the book. Listened to the book because after I watched it, I thought, okay, first off, the guy who directed it, I loved it. He did the series with, now, of course, Ava, when we meet her, iRobot. Oh. He did that. Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, and I love that. So I thought, well, this will be fun.
Mr. Robot? Is that what that was?
Mr. Robot. That's it. Mr. Robot. Anyway, so, and I loved that series, the first season anyway.
Yeah.
But I was really disappointed in that Leave the World Behind.
It's interesting.
When I listened to the book, I thought, oh my gosh, if they had just stayed more with the book, maybe. Do we actually need 2 whiny teenagers in a movie? And 3 when you count the preteen. Hi, Ava. Did we really need that? Because in the book,
yes,
it's not a whiny teenager. The black couple are an older couple.
Oh.
And their daughter is in Massachusetts with their grandchildren, and part of their angst is the worry about them. The other thing about the book is there is no planes crashing, Teslas running into each other, or ships, running up on shore. None of that has happened. The only thing that they translated from the book into the movie was the sound, and the the son that starts losing his teeth and stuff, that he's reacting to it. But the book itself is really a study in how, as humans, we are so grounded by our phones, our 24 news cycle of knowing what's happening in the world. And when all that is taken away, how do we react? Who do we become? And some of it was in the movie, and it was well done in that sense. But some of it they just kind of missed the mark on. In my personal opinion, they shouldn't have exchanged the grandmother for the whiny teenage girl. Because let's face it, how many teenagers do we have to have?
So this was produced by the Obamas? That's what that.
They were executive producers. Yeah,
it was their or whatever their company that they have now. Yeah. They're part of it. They produced it.
Yeah, they just offended.
It was fascinating because it's weird because like it seems like the script was very basic. Like at times I was like, we're really getting this caliber of actors to say these lines that are in front of us, and this is how we're plotting this thing. Like these are three of our finest actors working today, saying some of the most on the nose dialogue I've ever heard.
I wish they had used more lines from the book, but they didn't, because they took these relationships between these people in a different direction than the book did.
But it was like the direction was fascinating to me. Like he kept doing these interesting ideas of like how it was shot and how he like moved the camera, and then like there were it's been sort of written about like these weird symbolism in the movie, and like that they're talking about. So, White Lion, the name of the ship, that was the name of the first ship that brought African slaves to America. And there's the whole thing about the radio thing he was listening to was 1619, there's a lot of this that this racial tension is brought in as visual and symbolic things in it. And it's weird because like it's the underlying of the movie, but it doesn't ever bubble up to the surface. It's odd. Like and I do think like it's the director elevating the piece. That was how it was written, but it's odd. Like it kept making me think that there's more to this movie that I'm not understanding or something. Right, but I really think it was just a director who took a script that was just an average script and elevated it as best as he could, because I think that the direction's what shines there, and these three actors who are doing their best to elevate the work as well. Julie Roberts doesn't make a lot of movies anymore. She's very selective about what she does. And so it's always odd. You have to like sit there and watch these things that she does because it's like, she's amazing and she's so effortlessly amazing. But in this, she's really trying, and it's a little sad because you're like, oh.
You know, of all the characters, I think her and her husband's was the closest to the book. You know, being the uptight, you know, New Yorker that is always on schedule and things have to be done a certain way. And yet, you know, and her trying so hard to let that go, to be on vacation and not be so, you know, helicopter momish and all that other stuff. And her really trying to relax, so to speak. And her husband, who is, you know, played by Ethan Hawke in this, is a college professor and is beyond laid back.
Yes.
The kind of guy who gets lost without GPS, Cade. So, yeah.
What I find fascinating, so the script seems to be focused quite heavily on the media side of things. This idea that like what the role of media does to us, almost to like sedate us, and like that is the primary theme that the script seems to want to hit, is this idea that he's a media studies professor, this daughter's obsessed with this entertainment as some sort of sedative to what's actually the problems of the world, and like that is the seemingly biggest connective piece that this movie has as a theme, and I would assume that's in the book. But it seems like they've jettisoned every other theme, doesn't get that sort of interesting of whatever, you know, it doesn't dig into any other theme as closely as that does.
Yeah. And I think it's because that's the most visual. In the book, it's you know, because you're hearing the people's thoughts, you know, and Julia Roberts' character, question yourself going, am I racist? Am I really? How am I supposed to react? Should I, you know, not only am I in these people's homes, you know, I never thought people like that could own a home like that. I mean, she's having these thoughts and she's really never thought about before. Yes. And it throws her off completely as far as how she's supposed to act and do. And like I said, uptight, you know, marketing exec, you know, I thought Julia Roberts pulled that part of it off pretty well, but in the thing you get with books that you can never get in the movies is really and truly the motivation of the character.
And the internal dialogue.
Really, the internal dialogue means everything. And this is one of those books where that was the case.
Yes.
And although I have to tell you, it was more suspenseful and scary without all of the effects. The only thing they had in the book that was also in the movie was the deer migration, and how all these deer just suddenly show up and start running. And that was terrifying. And then
and that doesn't really come off as like, why are they, like in the movie, it's like, why are they screaming at these deer? Like, you know, it's just sort of strange. Like there are deer in this and it's all CGI and it's,
Yeah. And then they do have the flock of flamingos. And I thought, oh, Cade and his flamingos showed up. Yay. Anyway,
that was nice. I was happy about that.
Yeah. The flamingos did make an appearance in the book as well. So all said, leave the world behind, read the book, listen to the book. It's a very well done. It's not a long book. I can see why somebody would pick it up to make a movie about it, because it is, you know, it gives you the freedom to kind of go in some different directions, I guess. Well, I just don't know that they quite pulled it off in the movie.
Yeah, and the fear of being like, of removing that sort of connection piece and like, and the sort of like it's coming through, and the idea that like there's real world talks about like, you know, oh, this is the power grid, you know, people not really knowing exactly who's the culprit, and the fact that there's like this misinformation campaign like that. I can even see why that's appealing to like a political sense of the, like, you know, if the Obamas, you know, with all that and everything, like there's this idea that's like, this is very possible. And this is like, they even talk about like, the most fascinating part was, I thought Mahershala Ali's sort of idea that he has like this view of this sort of the elites of the world, and how he got that sort of window into someone saying like, all these different things, these conversations that he had, like without spoiling everything. Mm-hmm. I thought that was very interesting. It was probably the most interesting thought. And that wasn't in the book.
And it wasn't in the book.
Well,
also,
that's
Kevin Bacon.
Yes.
Yeah, the Kevin Bacon person was just a regular guy. He wasn't a, doomsday guy fan? Or anything. Huh?
Was he a Dallas Cowboys fan?
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Because he had the hat on.
The thing that came across though was that he was the contractor.
Yes.
Right, for the main character, and when they show up at his door, he goes, "Look, we're not friends. I just did this job for you." Mm-hmm. And but he knew nothing of what was happening either. Uh-huh. I mean, he had no idea what was going on. He said, I got my gun out and it's loaded and it's by the door, and we're all on our own.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea what's happening. And the only thing that has happened is that sound.
Yeah.
Which I thought was just terrifying.
Well, and then you immediately sort of know that, like, I mean, they're bringing up real world things that are like, they're talking about real world attacks on power plants. They said they mentioned them by names. That like if you know these sort of things, you sort of know, like immediately, like, well, they're doing Havana syndrome. Like that is what they're talking about, and then they spell it out to you. So yeah, these are real world possibilities and things that could happen in ways that these are warfare that we just do not. We do not have the ability to protect ourselves against, because we're particularly vulnerable, and they sort of spell out, here's all the different ways that we are vulnerable as the modern society to these great.
I'm not buying a Tesla. I don't know about you, but yeah. After watching that movie, there's no way I'm buying one.
Yeah.
And if I see one on the road, I'm getting out of its way, just in case.
And I just love that they were bold enough just to use their logo and everything. Like they made it like other films would be like, we're not going to open ourselves up to litigation. This is going to be called Smesla, and it's going to have but
what's he going to do?
Yeah,
I mean, what's he going to file a lawsuit saying if the world ends, my cars are going to do that? Give me a break. Yeah. But yeah, and then that was in the book, and so it was interesting that how different it was, But anyway. I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah.
Because there were some parts of it that were shot beautifully, I thought.
Yes. This was not supposed to be what our show was about.
I know. We haven't talked to each other in so long.
I know. I kind of forgot we were doing it. We're supposed to be doing a podcast here.
That's right. We do. We have a couple of movies we watch.
Yes.
And fun and enjoyable movies.
Yes. So this might be a long episode we have here tonight. But I did want to mention real quick before we jump into it, the other thing that I've been watching, because I watched a I don't know if you know the Happy Sad Confused podcast. Josh Hurwitz, he interviews a lot of different people. He did a 92nd Street Y interview with Gary Oldman, and he was talking about his career and doing different things, but he was really there to promote his new Apple. Well, I guess not new; it's been around for a few years, but there's a new season that is out or whatever, and it's called Slow Horses. And the way they talked about it and everything, it's a spy show and everything. And I'm like, okay, I'm watching it, and I'll watch it for Gary Oldman, because he's like, this is the most fun I've had on a project. I absolutely love it. He's like, I told my agent that I wanted to do a show where I don't have to put on a bunch of makeup. I just use my natural accent, and I just
always be the best Dracula ever.
Yes. He's like, I don't want makeup. I just want to use my natural accent. I kind of want it to be a spy thriller. Like he did all this, and then and I want just to have normal garb and clothes and everything. And then like the next week the script came through for this, and he's like, okay, that's what I wanted. And so I started watching it, and I love it. So watch Slow Horses. Okay. It's really fun, and Gary Oldman's in it, and it's kind of about sort of modern espionage and everything, and they're spies, they're MI5 spy or things, for domestic things in Britain, and their play. I'm still on the first season. I'm about wrapped up with it, but they're this group of people that are sort of the misfits of like they've been dismissed out of the main branch and into this sort of lower end of just grub work for intelligence, and a big sort of thing happens and they're pulled into it, whatever. So watch it. He's the head of it, and it's great. I love it.
Okay.
And Gary Oldman's amazing.
Yeah. Sounds like a Melissa McCarthy movie that has Jason Statham in it.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
I mean, it's not a comedy, so this isn't a comedy. It's a somebody. Yeah, but he's fun.
I love a good spy movie. I'm sorry,
Yes.
but I will always a sucker for a spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Always. That's why I watched that one with Gal Gadot. Gadot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a sucker for a spy movie.
Ava's really wanting her reign to end. Hopefully, it's the longest ever. So my episode is usurped.
Oh, we can't do that. We've got. Well, Ava has to keep her reign.
And also, let's be clear here. This is So just this portion of the episode is the only thing that counts.
That's right. That's all that counts. So we're going to talk about
2 movies. We got 2 movies. We have 20th Century Women, which Diane will give the plot of that movie. And then we have Phantom Thread. Those are the 2 movies that we're talking about. There's really no cohesive piece. They're roughly the same 2016, 2017. They're period pieces. 20th Century Women takes place in 1979, California. And then Phantom Thread is 1950s London. So not a huge connective piece there, but they're dramas, and they are period pieces, and they're 2 movies that we've been wanting to watch for some time. So, Diane, are you ready to give the plot for 20th Century Women?
I am. I found it.
Okay. Okay, we will jump right into the show. Sorry for that extended intro. Diane and I had to catch up for a bit. We've been off there for a bit.
Poor Cade he has been down with the COVID.
Yes.
And you're looking so much better, Cade.
Oh, well, thank you. So here's the plot. After this little musical interlude, Diane will talk about 20th Century Women.
Oh, let me get myself centered here. There we go. Okay, 20th Century Woman. In 1979, Santa Barbara, California, Dorothea Fields is a determined single mother in her mid-50s who is raising her adolescent son, Jamie. At a moment brimming with cultural change and rebellion. I remember those days. 1979 was brimming with cultural revolution and a rebellion. Anyway, Dorothea enlists the help of 2 younger women, Abby, who's a free-spirited punk artist living as a boarder in her home, and Julie, a savvy and provocative teenage neighbor, to help with Jamie's upbringing. This movie was written and directed by Mike Mills and stars Annette Bening and Greta. And I get that button over there. Elle Fanning is in it. Greta Gerwig, which I want to believe, Cade, that this film is the reason she did Barbie later. And then Billy Crudup in it. And then Jamie is played by a kid named Lucas Zumann. Now, I don't know. He's in a lot of other things too as well. So anyway, all that said, that's the introduction and kind of the plot line of 20th Century Woman. It was released 5 days before the 2016 presidential election. So a lot of people may have missed this movie. So I hope that you get the chance to watch it. Kate, are you ready to talk about this movie, or are you like gone off and coughing somewhere?
I was getting prepared for this next section. Now,
bless your heart.
No problem. I have probably more notes about this movie than I've had in any of my movies. I just took so much notes. I love this movie. I think I'm going to back up a bit. I had seen, it was in college, I had watched, it was maybe on Netflix, I don't know what it was on, but I'd like, oh, okay, I'll watch a little bit of this. And I watched like the first 20 minutes of it, and I'm just like, I'm not gelling with it. I'm just going to put it away. And so I always just kept pushing this movie off on, because it seemed like something I'd be interested in, but
Mhm.
when I watched it, I'm like, I'm not exactly gelling with it. And I must still say, like, the first 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm not getting it with this ethereal music and all these different things. Like, I'm not really gelling with
I
what the
thought you
vibe
would
was.
jump right in there when the Talking Heads.
Well, yes, Talking Heads.
I mean,
come on.
it's like the begin. It's like, and
Mhm.
I think that was my very first note.
I
Oh
suppose it's my
God,
first
Talking
note
Heads.
too. Talking Heads exclamation
Kate is
point.
gonna love this.
Hmm. So, I mean, and then the fact that they factor in so much into the plot of the movie, the Talking Heads are a huge thematic point of this movie, and so
Well, it
is
was like
David
the
Bowie.
death of punk is happening at that time. Yeah.
Yes, so it's a movie about like where Bowie and then the Talking Heads are such an influential part, and they're part of the script, and they're talking. I'm like, this is amazing, but as I sat with it, I'm like, I ended up just absolutely loving this movie so much. And it's just filled with things I absolutely love in movies and everything. And I love this movie, and I didn't expect to love it so much. And part of me wonders if it was just like my sickness and me being down and just being kind of, and I had just finished a new
Vulnerable.
version. Yeah, and I just finished this other version of my script, and I think that there's some similarities between this and the script I'm working on, and so that it just, I was really in tune with what this film was saying and everything, and I was moved by this movie in such a profound way. I loved it, and this maybe just because it's recent or whatever, we talk a lot about all these people in this movie. Like, this is kind of like a really good movie
It was a really good movie to wrap up.
Yeah.
With, right? Yeah.
Because we have Greta and we have her whole history of Greta. I mean, like when it ended, it said, "Do you want to watch Maggie's Plan?" I guess Maggie's Plan is on Max. Go watch Maggie's Plan on Max. So Greta, and then of course we talked about her with Barbie, in earlier, and then Annette Bening. We have this love of Annette Bening on our show. I'm going to go out on a limb here. This might be my favorite Annette Bening performance, and I know that's crazy, but I because she does so many great things. But of what I've seen, she's supposed to be good at Naiad. I haven't seen that one, but I love this performance, and she delivers these lines. There is so many lines, and a lot of my notes are just Annette Bening lines, and she just she goes up to the bat and just knocks it out of the park. These lines, she's amazing. I don't know if you have anything you want to say about Annette Bening.
I am going to say this about her character. My mother and her were the same age. 1979. I mean, I'm the same. I was born the same year as Greta's character, right? In this movie. So it was hilarious it was hilarious to me to see the comparison between how my mother reacted to certain things and how Annette Bening's character Dorothea reacted to certain things. And it was like, it can't just be because she lives in California. I mean, she is definitely a character that should go down for the ages. I mean, there is no one like her anywhere in the world. And I don't think anybody could have pulled it off but Annette Bening.
Yes.
Yeah. And she should have won something for it but at the same time, timing is everything on these kind of, and especially with a movie like this, and what happened 5 days later changed the world.
Yeah.
Right. And all the progress that these three women had made in their lives was wiped out. So that was kind of like one of those aha moments where reality hit, this movie that should have meant more when it was released, but couldn't, because we are no longer allowed to have that. So I just like you, I love this movie. I loved it because especially after I read the guy who wrote it and directed it. First off, usually when men write and direct movies about women, you just want to throw up because it's just so one-sided. But he wrote this movie for his mother. It's kind of like took me up a little bit. It was such a love letter.
Yeah.
To her. That's how I took it.
And a love letter to these other women in his life. He talks about like how these are influenced by a lot of, like his sisters and other people they know. Like these are a love letter to the women that helped raise him in a lot of ways and helped, him to see these different perspectives and stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I love that they had these 3 different generations because, like I said, my mother would not have reacted the same way that Annette Bening. She was so much more progressive. At the same time, she was shut down. In a sense, Ava just says that she could play somebody that shut down without being boring because that generation, that came through the Depression and went through the things that these people went through are detached from themselves. They were taught to be that way from the time they were born almost. So that I saw my mother in her a lot. And then at the same time, there were components of Dorothea that, my mom would have never in a million years gone there. It was she. Just some of the things she was just like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. And this may not work out for you. Dorothea would say it that way. My mom would be not, no, but hell no. Dress in this house and tell that girl to go home right now.
Yeah. So this movie, I don't even know how to kind of go about the different ways. So, it's an ensemble film. So it's a film with these 5 characters. Those Annette Bening, Elle Fanning, and Greta Gerwig, and then there's the boy who's the kind of is this perspective of he's the point of view character of the movie, and then Billy Crudup who is part of the movie as well.
Who gives us insight into a worthless man.
Yeah. Well, you
gotta have one.
The idea is that they what's so brilliant about it is like they do these weird pairings of all these characters. So here's like an ensemble piece, and sometimes they're in scenes all together and everything. Sometimes it's 3 of them, but a lot of this film is filled with just 2 of these characters, and they each have like scenes together, each of them, and it kind of shows different sides of all of these characters. And I absolutely love it. It's people in rooms talking, and it's and I love.
It's a movie about nothing but about everything.
Yes, that's an excellent way of saying that. Because it doesn't have a larger, like I just kept waiting for the movie to finally click and be like, so what's this film like? What's the plot of this movie? What's what's the thing at stake or what, whatever. And it's never anything tangible, but it's about everything. It's all of the weight of the world and life and love and all this. Like it doesn't have a clear cut, here's the goal and here's the plot and everything of that, but it still worked because it's, like you said, it's about nothing, but at the same time it's about it all. And it's a brilliantly paced and scripted movie, and it has narration in it. I don't know if we want to talk about that, which is typically, they now sort of shun that in some sort of circles of they shouldn't have narration, but I think this is brilliant use of narration.
I do too. I agree because there's the movie is focused on what the characters are going through. It's just giving you narration so that you kind of can stay in the outline of the life path of these people, right? But it lets the real amount of time that you want to spend with this movie with those characters.
Yes,
which is what makes it just brilliant.
So
like I said, if it had been released a year earlier, oh my God. It would have been, they would have all gotten awards for that.
Yeah.
They would have.
Well, because it's sort of heralding in that and everything. Like it was a movie sort of its time. Like it was probably made in the time in which you sort of thought that was the case and everything. And like this was on the backs of these women and everything like that. But the narration. So the plot of the movie is linear as far as like what we see, but it's broken up by these moments of narration where they go and they explain each of these characters, and each of them have points that they narrate and everything. And my favorite portion of the movie is Annette Bening after she goes to that punk concert.
I know.
And she's narrating about, like, because they take like this sort of removed like you can't really tell if like these are these characters speaking. They're saying I and me and this person, or they're talking about that. But it's so moving. It's about, she's saying that they don't realize this is at the end of punk. This is that they don't know what's on the horizon, which in many respects does like parallel what even like the movie where it doesn't realize what's about to happen. It's at the end of this interesting era, and like they're saying like it's the end of punk and Reagan's about to come, and they don't realize that all of their worries about nuclear annihilation is not going to be what the next generation worries about, which is global warming and all of this sort of thing. And the fact that she spent her last years worrying about a problem that wasn't with Y2K and preparing for it, and she wasn't even going to live to see it, and that wasn't even going to be a problem. And the fact, like all of that is I think make it brought a tear to my eye. It was like pure cinema, as Annette Bening is narrating all, and you're seeing all of this thing. And this is in the middle of the movie. There's still a whole movie left, and it's her, and you sort of understand the weight and the place that this takes place in, and how like mortality and how we get caught up in different things that we assume is the problems, but the whole new issue comes along. And I just that section really stood out to me as just brilliant. And I think that it even puts it in a contextual way that the film thinks something, and obviously what happens just a few days later. It was interesting.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that you watch and someone like me watches it, and I come out of it really depressed because we haven't came very far since 1979. We thought in 1979 we were going to be further along, when in reality we've regressed, but we thought we would be further along. And we aren't. So that's the depressing part of it. I do love that they had Jimmy Carter's actual speech where he said that, because I'll never forget that, because 10 years later, he was so freaking right. I mean, really 5 years later, because that's when Reaganism came in and consumerism and
absolutely
the me generations began, that kind of thing.
And that they were sort of like, and the fact that different people took different things from that, it was fascinating how like these, I don't even know who the men were that they were having this dinner party with. I know. I was like, who are these people? They're in
I didn't see the fire chief again. He was like in that one dinner scene, he wasn't in the second one. So,
but she does invite people to these dinner, like that's part of her character and everything. So here's just random people, and so they sit around and watch this speech from Jimmy Carter, and they're just like, they take it as, well, he's done for, or like this is like a last like effort of him trying to do something or whatever, trying to save, and she's like, wow, that was the most beautiful thing.
Save the world.
Yeah.
There were a lot of us that thought that was the most beautiful thing, but it didn't matter, because
Yeah.
Within a year of that speech, they would have taken the solar panels off the White House. Yeah. Anyway. And
that was just another thing of people not understanding the stakes of what was there and everything.
That's right.
I think the movie works of just, I mean, like I'm in awe of this film, of how it was able to weave all of these different things. I've learned so much of even like other projects that I want to work on. Like the narration in particular was just blew my mind open of just different things of like, that's insane how they wove that all together and everything like that. I think you can push that a step further in different ways. And every once in a while I see films that, that's what I love about doing this podcast is I'm like, that's an element that I hadn't even really thought of before. And and I've had different projects that I've worked on. I'm like, how am I breaking it? Like I have it all, but there's one piece, and that's one piece. And I'm like, that's a piece that plugs in great to this other thing and so seeing all of these different art things, and this is one of them that it just does it expertly. It's like, I'm so glad I have this here to watch all of these things. And I'm glad I gave this movie another shot. I'm glad I didn't just mark it off after watching it thing. But yeah, no. Quotes I have, Annette Bening says, "Wondering if you're happy is just a great shortcut to being depressed," is an amazing line.
I know.
And the one that just knocked me out, the one that she's talking. So she, in this movie, Annette Bening is talking to Greta and Elle and like wanting them to help. It's so awkward, but it's like wanting them to help raise her son or like kind of give him different world things and everything. And like they all know it. Like it's not like it's a secret. Like he learns about it. They all know that these two. It's because you're like, well, this is odd. They seem to have a good relationship. Why is she doing this? But she's still fearful. Like you start to understand, like as they're using these two people as like conduits for them to speak to each other because they can't speak to each other in any sort of real way. And so whenever they try to, they get offended by the other person and they take it of like, what does this mean? Why are you doing it? But if they speak through these other two people, they can help have experience. And that all comes together when Annette's talking to Greta and everything, and they're having this heart to heart, and she says, you get to see him in the world as a person, and I never will, is one of just the most heartbreaking and true, and it just I just felt that line in a way that as this mother to a child of wanting to make this this person a real well-rounded human being, but never really knowing, they'll never know that person in a way that other people do. This movie's just filled with little things like that, and that was one that just floored me in a way that I
wonderful lines in this movie. Just an excellent script all the way around. I knew you would take care of the Annette Bening quote, so I went after the Greta one.
Greta's so good in this.
Greta. She is so good in this movie. She's amazing to me. I just love this woman. Anyway, one of my favorite was the punk world is very divisive. I just love that. It's like when you think of all, how divisive the world is right now, and you have to go, okay, in 1979, the punk world was very divisive. You had the talking heads on one side, and then you have the killers on the other, and
Black Flag. The fact and just the Beetle. I mean, there was so many. They're just driving around with that written on it. Yeah, no, and the fact that she's like wanting, like Annette Bening's not, she's like wanting to know the etymology of like.
I don't understand. What's going on. Yeah.
Why would this be the language that they use?
Yeah. And that was a great line. The other one that Greta had that I thought was so true, where she is talking to Jamie, the kid, and she said, whatever you think your life is going to be like, just know it's not going to be anything like that. Mm-hmm. And that really comes in true as they, in their narration say, here's how they ended up. Mm-hmm. Right. And the thing Greta's
storyline. I was just we didn't really kind of hit on that. It
was so similar to my own life. I mean, in so many ways. And then it pops up that she's born in 1955, which is the year I was born. Mm-hmm. And my hair has been red, like that.
The fact that she did that from after seeing The Man Who Fell from Earth, that's another movie we reference a lot on this show and everything. So it's just it's that and from Bowie and everything, and
in 1979, I was in New York.
Yeah.
Working in New York City. And that's where I saw The Man Who Fell from Earth. And it's, so it was just paralleled my own life a little too closely.
And the fact that like, she's like, that here was a mother, again, it gets about these people not sort of, in what parts do you accept it's your responsibility, and other part, is it this external worldview? Like the fact that the mother was told to do, like the fact like smoking's a big part of this movie. Like there's all these different things of like what we assume.
They should have put a trigger warning out there for me. I know there's all these trigger warnings on everything now. I watched another one of the comedians on Netflix. Oh, he's just out. What's his name? He did the Oscar stuff.
Ricky Gervais.
Yes, yeah. I watched his deal, and he was talking about trigger warnings and how movies have to have all these trigger warnings now. They should have put one out there for smoking. Because,
but that's been the whole.
Yes, my first cigarette was a Salem.
My grandmother smoked Salem's.
Yeah.
That's what she Salem Lights. That was her. It was always that was and I'm like I can just smell them and know.
Oh, it's good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you. Well, but I sit there and I was thinking like it does.
I started smoking when it was good for you.
Not to sort of talk about smokes, but like Salem's do have a different smell to them that does seem elevated or it's like menthol. I'm like if I was like that would be the one I would smoke. I know, but because it's like I get it. Like I that one, it doesn't seem so hard and rough and in your face and gross. Like it does have an elevate in the look of it. It's also marketing. Like it looks clean and it looks classy or whatever. But no, but so that was one that really got me too. But but the fact that like
Salem was a big one. My mom smoked them too in the 70s, and then they came out with Virginia Slims.
Yes, for the women, the working women or whatever.
Working women. That was in the 80s. Yeah.
And but like they each had. I mean, that's the whole going into marketing of how they marketed cigarettes. Of like they each one had their own. Thing that was like they marketed to groups of people and everything, and so that was a bad situation. But the point I was trying to make is like here's like whether it's like society that's pushes people down these different things that causes undue harm to society, like the fact that the mother was prescribed this prescription that end up having this horrible impact on her child, and the fact that this is Abby's character, the Greta Gerwig's character, her mother, and the fact that like this is a societal problem, but the mother can't handle the sort of effect that has, and won't take any sort of responsibility. But is it hers to take of the responsibility, or is it the larger world of pushing this onto people? It's a brilliant, interesting movie, and it shows the sort of this really humanistic impact that these greater forces have and everything. That character, Greta Gerwig's character, was just one of the most tragic but uplifting characters, and she just played it just excellently. Again, another one of like, I think that she that's maybe my favorite Greta Gerwig performance, even though I love Maggie's Playing a lot as a movie and everything. But I think that this performance is extraordinary, and in a movie where they should have all, swept the awards that year. I don't know what won that year, but I was blown away by all of them. And I thought Elle Fanning, that's a role that there's 1,000,001 ways to write that wrong. And I think it avoided the wrong ways to write that character. Like it was incredibly well written too. Mm-hmm. The Elle Fanning's character. And on paper, that shouldn't work from a male screenwriter, but it works very well. And Elle Fanning, another one that we've talked about a lot on the show too. With Neon Demon came out right before this.
You know, this is one of my favorite roles for her. Mm-hmm. I really loved her in this role.
Yes.
You know, I think it gave her a chance to do more than she normally gets to do.
Yes.
You know. Yeah, I was trying to remember that the drug that was so big back in the 50s, and it was really to treat nausea, that created a lot of birth defects and long-term healthcare problems, you know. But there was one, the DES, that was given to women in Australia that, you know, caused long-term damage for their child. And breast care, you know, I mean, it's breast cancer. Anyway,
but that was the fact that she brought the boy there, like, cause like he was in the all that was it was just so well written.
Yeah, you loved it.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
And do you recommend it?
I absolutely would recommend this. I was trying to see if there's any other thing that I talked about how they paired with different people, how that they talk, and the way it's resolved. I'm not going to, because we haven't really spoiled it. I don't want to spoil it. It's all just brilliant. And how, they talk through these characters because they can't talk to each other. And just the different complex natures of all of their relationships was just brilliant. And then I just love this movie so much. And then it's bookended. It has, as time goes by, that was the only other note I had. It's this music. so much amazing music. Talking Heads is throughout it. I'm a huge Talking Heads fan, so I didn't have to mention that. Talking Heads is throughout it. There's a Bowie song. Bowie song DJ was one of the times that he was trying to emulate David Byrne in his music styling, and that was kind of an interesting time period of where Bowie was always experimenting, doing different things, and here he was sort of listening to underground sort of punk movements and stuff and everything. And
slow down. I can't follow you. Going too fast.
And he was doing a lot of. He was following a lot of different. He was always a fan of a lot of different music, and that was one that he was very noticeably pulling from the sounds of Talking Heads in order to make them. That was interesting that they used that song, of course, in the movie as well. Devo, there's a bunch of different things in there. That's great.
I recognize the Devo because I saw them at concert in 1979.
Yes. And then they were wearing Devo shirt. I mean, it was amazing. I love it, and this was the birth of new wave in a lot of ways in America, and the American new wave movement. Yes. So, and then I always want to say, as time goes by, I love that song. I don't like a lot of old music. I always loved that.
Verde Valley, loved it.
I loved it in Casablanca, which Casablanca is about to, in a few years, be public domain, which that's going to be fun. Mickey Mouse is tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be public domain. Fun fact. Did you know that?
Yeah. Wow.
I recommend it. It did take me a long time to warm up to it, though. It did take a longer time to warm up to me, so give it a chance. Yes, I agree. That was one of the opening's weird with the car and all. It took me. So that's why I stopped it after 20 minutes many years ago of just like, I'm not dealing with it. And then this time I had to stick with it. And by the time I'm 40 minutes into it, I'm trying to think of exact moment where I'm just like, but as soon as the Annette Bening in that middle part with the punk, I'm like, I'm sold. This movie's amazing. And then it just continues. It's a movie that just gets better and better and better and better as it goes on. So give it a shot. It is well worth your time. It's on Max. If you have Max, highly, highly recommend watching this movie. It's stellar. Diane, would you recommend people watch this movie?
Yeah, I would recommend people to watch this movie. I think that if you're of a certain age, you might be a little bit put off that your value is based on whether you have children or not. But, some things will never change. And that's just how it is. So,
well, they do an interesting thing. Not one of the characters, said that's not an important priority for them. And they do sort of say like, okay.
Cade, let me state this a little bit more clearly for you.
Okay.
The choice to have children or not as being the defining person of who you are is not a good thing.
Okay.
You can be more than that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. You can be more than that. They didn't have to make that as part of the movie either. But then again, it was written by a man. So we have to count on that happening.
I do think it was more like it was him being a child was more important than having children in the movie. Like the fact that you're someone's child is the thematic tie.
That. Yeah. That had nothing to do with what I just said.
Okay.
So other than that, yeah, I recommend it highly. I do. I recommend it. I think it was a really good movie. I thought I kind of loved the opening of it with the car on fire. I was like, oh, wow. One time my mom and I were in Sears and it caught on fire. So I thought, yeah, this is a perfectly normal childhood thing to have happen. Just having something catch on fire that belongs to you or you're involved in, So I kind of love that part. I didn't have to warm up to it.
Well, it was it was the fact that the movie starts so like you have to like be 100% into like the style of the movie. Like the movie, like it jumps right into, it doesn't ease you into the style because it does have an odd style. I will say that. Like it has like the music is like overbearing, it's like this ethereal which by the end of it, like or by even the middle point, you like get it, like you're like because it's about these weightier themes. But I do think there's a way to ease you into it instead of it just starting with the car's on fire, how it does it. Like
actually, I thought it was easing you into it because by the end of the movie, you're saying ministration at a dinner at the dinner table around everybody else, and it's making everyone uncomfortable. But you're doing it anyway, and you're making people repeat you. And then you decide to talk about your sex life as a child.
That was, yeah.
Anyway, all that said, I recommend it highly. It's just that, we at some point, and it took years later for Greta to create Barbie to where you didn't have to be defined on whether you were a mother or not.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Yay for Greta.
The movie was about mothers and daughters.
The movie was about a mother and her son.
No, I'm saying that the Barbie.
Oh, it was yes, it was.
It was just as much about mothers and children as this movie was.
But you didn't at the end. You didn't have to have somebody come along and say, "Oh, well," and so decided to have 2 children, and she decided not to have any because that's what women do. That's all we are. We produce or we don't. That's who we are. Barbie didn't end that way.
The movie very much ended in a way that women don't have to make. Here's all the choices that women have to make or can and can't make. Barbie did end that way.
Yeah, well, you have to take every character and say, "Oh, she had babies. She did not have babies. This one had babies, but this one didn't." And not every character had to have that seal of approval on her. I just hate movies that end that way. Can you tell we had 2 this time? We had 2 this time that you had no reason to live unless you were procreating or whatever. But anyway, so give it a chance.
Give it a chance. Yeah.
Give it a chance.
Give it a chance. Yeah.
Just to see Annette Bening in this movie was worth it. I mean, just to see her performance.
All of them were great. I thought, Billy did a really good job. We didn't really talk about him too much. I mean, I think he for that role, he did a great job.
I'm always surprised when he shows up in a role like this, which you don't think of him in a role like this, of being like an ex-hippie kind of dude, and, that kind of thing. But I loved him in it. He was clueless when he was supposed to be clueless.
He fit that role. Like, I know that guy. That guy.
Yeah, we all know that guy, right? Absolutely. You are convinced he is that guy.
Yes.
Yeah. I had to think about what other movies has he always been that guy? No, he hasn't.
No, he's a chameleon actor. Like he can do a bunch of different things. Yeah. And you're right. He plays it with so naturally that you wonder.
She's like, has he always been this guy? Well, maybe this is the one role he's playing that he's not in a role. He really is this guy.
Yes.
All of them really did that. I mean, you don't ever get taken out, of the character. They always, how it seems like in every movie, or there's some point where the character kind of gets thrown out, and then you have to kind of reel it back in. None of them do that. They're all
the entire journey is
even the little kid, even Jamie, the guy.
He's amazing. Like that is a tough role. That's the toughest role because he. Can
you imagine being this? He was probably 15 or 14 himself, right?
Yeah,
and having to be in these scenes.
Yeah,
with Annette Bening or Greta or Elle Fanning and do these lines and come out as natural. Yeah. What a great little actor, really.
Yes, he did it excellent as well.
Loved it.
Well, so we recommended around. So that was 20th Century Women. Next, we'll be going into our short little intermission, and then we'll talk about Phantom Thread from Paul Thomas Anderson. I do think I want to watch some other movies from that director of 20th Century Women.
I do too.
I want to put him on the list.
We're going to put him on the list because I just love that.
So look forward to it, because I think we're definitely going to put some of his stuff on there to see the different ones. I guess the one he did right before this is supposed to be really good. It's Ewan McGregor and Christopher Plummer, and it's all based on his father, so it's kind of his father's story.
Wow, that'll be interesting.
So that we will talk about. We'll just know we'll do that in the future. So now
he's going to end up on our list.
Yeah, stay tuned for more Double Feature Movie Club. So next is Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson. After this short little musical interlude, I'll give the plot of that movie.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time. All these delicious treats are waiting for you at the refreshment stand. Delicious fresh popcorn, ice-cold cola, and candy you know and love. They're all ready for you now, so you won't have to miss any of the feature. Come and get them.
And now, on with the show.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to give the plot of Phantom Thread. This, like I said before, was written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It tells the story of renowned dressmaker Reynolds Woodcock and his sister Cyril. Reynolds is played by Daniel Day-Lewis. This is, as of today, his final film role. He says he's retired after this movie, so this may be the last Daniel Day-Lewis movie, or may not. We'll see. And then his sister is played by Lesley Manville, and they are dressmakers. So they are at the center of this of British fashion in the 1950s London. He dresses royalty. He dresses a lot like movie stars, different things. Like he's a very well-respected fashion designer of his time. Different socialites and different things. So they come and go to his place, and so it starts out, he has this other lady, he has these muses and these lovers or whatever that come along, and it starts out with him getting rid of one of them. He dismisses them, and now he falls in love with this new lady, this muse that he met out. She was a waitress at this country restaurant thing that he goes out to on the hillside, and she's not of this world at all, and she's brought into this. He's very meticulous and everything. She, like I said, becomes his new muse, makes dresses for her. She helps out with the dressmaking, and she's very she shakes up, I guess you can say, in a lot of ways, his life and his worldview in different ways. That is the essential plot of Phantom Thread. Diane, her name's Alma. I didn't say that. That's her name. Alma. What'd you think about this movie?
I was trying to figure out where Alma was from.
See, I thought she was French, but they didn't say that, and they didn't.
No, they didn't. That's, and it kind of caught me off guard when she spoke French to the Belgian princess.
Mm-hmm. And the actress is from Luxembourg. So she's German and Luxembourg.
As a character, where was she from? Because I just thought she's one of the, she had the complexion of the, English rose, kind of person. And I thought that's what she was all along. And then they
used to call her a foreigner. They said that in the movie, and they said that like that. Yeah. So it's not very clear where she's from. I guess it makes sense that she's maybe Eastern European or something. I don't know, because like they make it seem like she's not of any sort of class or anything. She's come here to the country, so she does have an immigrant. Mm-hmm. And she does she has a thick accent, and so that doesn't fit in with the posh English society. So, but she does know French enough to speak with the Belgian princess or whatever. Okay. But anyway, so what'd you think of did you like the movie?
I did. By the time I got to the end of it, I thought, did I just watch The Master with better clothes? Maybe I did. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. I love the clothes. So, it was kind of like, are all his movies like this? Because I don't remember watching any other ones, and I could be wrong. But other than that, I did like the movie, though. I thought Daniel Day-Lewis did an excellent job. I loved Alma.
Yes.
So she just, I love it when an actress doesn't have to be overt. They use the very subtle things about themselves to get their point across. And I thought this actress was exceptional at doing that. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know her. I mean, she could be another.
This was like her breakout role. That's what they said. Yeah. This was her breakout role. So yeah,
it was a breakout role for her, which, she's, at first you thought, what on earth is he attracted to? Because she's not beautiful. And then he's dressing her, and she says, I have no breasts or something like that. He goes, yeah, no, you don't, but it's my job to give them to you, And it was like, okay, so this is like a Frankenstein kind of story, right? He's going to create, his perfect model or whatever. And he obviously has done that before. He's like, does it over and over again, right?
Yeah. Well, you assume it's going to be what, My Fair Lady, was it Pygmalion? Which the idea,
yeah. And maybe with a little bit more control kind of thing, and that it's going to be not a good situation for her, because it starts off with him eliminating the last one, right? Or his sister doing the dirty work. And the actress that plays his sister, we talked about her,
Lesley Manville.
So good. When she first, at the very beginning, when she comes in and they're opening up the windows, and the seamstresses are walking up the stairs, and you don't really know that's what they are, but here's all this happening. It was like so 1940s, 1950s movie star. I mean, that's exactly when the Countess comes in. It's so perfect from a period perspective, at least our reminiscence of what those 40s and 50s movie stars were like. And that's how the actress who plays his sister, she's just like a 1940s movie star. Here's, they're just, Barbara Streisand or Stanwyck and all of them.
Yeah, I would. So, I mean, I kind of want to, we've never talked about we did. We talked, I was about to say we never done a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. We did Inherent Vice.
Oh, that's right.
I
wasn't there.
I maybe I've said something. Technically, I think that's our lost episode. We call our lost episode because
the lost episode,
because the audio wasn't great, but you can still go back and watch it on YouTube, but you can't on podcast because the audio is terrible. But it is my history with Paul Thomas Anderson is like I love the concepts of his works, but the executions I can't gel with. I don't understand the choices that he makes a lot of times, and like why he's telling it in the way that he's telling it, and like whereas like so many people love his works, and I can't get on the rhythm with it. Like I'm like I don't feel like I'm speaking the same language as this movie, and I'm not. I don't understand why he's doing different things in the way that he's doing them. Like I got angry at, and this movie I think was better. I end up liking this movie. Generally, there's a lot of problems I have with it. One of the, like when they first meet, I got viscerally upset with the film as to why he directed it that way, and why like this doesn't feel like the first time people are meeting. Like I feel like but everyone's acting like this is just normal movie logic because people love Paul Thomas Anderson, and this is one of them the things where I'm like, this doesn't feel. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel from this. Like it's directed and written and acted in such a bizarro, inhuman way that I completely do not understand it. It's like, and I'm being told that this is normal, and it's not. This is not how normal people speak. This is not how film language works. This does not have the gravitas and the weight and the feeling that sort of scene should have, and it makes me upset at times. And that was one of these movies.
I did like the fact that she tripped, and that's what got his attention, is that she tripped, and it was like, okay, so this is somebody who's in their rawest form. But then it didn't make any sense from the perspective that what was her motivation for going with him?
Yeah,
I could see his motivation for dragging this young girl, back to his loft. I mean, we've all seen that movie 1,000 times. But where was her motivation in this? What was it that enticed her? Did she know who he was?
Doesn't seem like it.
It didn't seem like she did. But
she says that he's very handsome.
But
that's about the only thing that she sort of get.
So I kind of went where you did. I was like, God, I hate that. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. She wouldn't go off with him like this unless there was another reason other than you're very handsome, unless for some reason she doesn't
She wants out of the situation. Yeah, I mean, it's not.
They didn't give us a reason for her to go with them.
They didn't give us a reason the entire movie. I guess you assume that it has to do with the fact that she wants to be elevated outside of her class. But that's just you as an audience member assuming that and attaching that to this character, because it's never said. It's never said what she gets out of it. It doesn't even seem like she particularly likes this lifestyle. It's just something she does, and it's well, she hates the lifestyle in a lot of ways, and she hates her predicament. So it's weird. Like, the entire movie, you do not understand what she's getting out of this situation. You can assume, like Ava says, he has money.
He has money.
You assume that that's what it is, but it's never said, and it's never even hinted at that that's what she enjoys. And
she could have stepped up with somebody else after she got there, but she didn't. She stayed with him. She married him. You know. So
yes,
which you didn't really have to at that point. So I don't know. It was like, these are two people who are narcissistic, and they got together, and this is how it's going to be. And
they cause pain around everyone. Everyone is like, this is a nightmare to be around.
Yeah.
Everyone,
total nightmare. And she's like, okay, he's going to cause me pain in these ways, but I'm going to cause him pain in these ways. So in the end, they're the same.
Yes. And it was saying, but doesn't need to be said about the fact that that's what her thing. I think that she needs to have some sort of motivation that's clear, even if it's just a line, or even if it's just something that's like, what is she getting out of it? Yes, it does seem to be the money, but like, you're having to come up with that sort of into it. Like, it doesn't.
Well, and it's so quick. I mean, it's like, okay, she's serving him dinner, and then the next minute she's in his loft getting undressed and having something pinned on her. I don't know. It was just that
you
to me
get by the end of it that he's getting out of this idea of someone pushing back against him, that someone which was also kind of what he did for the first lady, but the fact that she doesn't give up, and the fact that
but she mothers him to it. You know what I mean?
That's the parallel, is that he's wanted a mother, that he's been missing this mother figure, and that she literally makes him need her in this mother role.
In a mother role. And to me, that's where they're beating you over the head.
Yes.
And this is why it didn't win any awards other than costume.
Yes. Well, it's like you start to get, I think this is one where like you sort of see the parallels between these two movies of like, technically speaking, 20th Century Women has no plot points. It has no, nothing that really happened. There's things that happen, but it's so much like, that doesn't matter. You leave the movie and I don't even remember specifically what X, Y, Z. It's just the feeling, and it's just the thing where like, whereas Phantom Thread, it seems like it's undid by, or it undoes itself because of how specific plot points are in this movie. It's the mushrooms in particular, that is such a huge plot point. And the fact that all of that is such a huge, like that's what the movie is about. It seems so reductive of a plot point in a movie that I can't even, like, why was that the choice? And it's just, I guess, to make it the mother figure and all this. But it seems so stupid. Like, and that a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's plot points come out of left field, and they serve no greater purpose. I don't know. They just seem so odd. They seem so bizarro, to me, at least. Other people love them, but that is the fact that poison mushrooms play such a huge part of this British fashion movie. It's bizarre. It's bizarre to me, and it feels weird. I don't know how else to say it, but it feels weird in the movie.
What would you have preferred her use to bring him down to his base, to where he's throwing up in the commode, and he needs someone to hold his hair?
So there was a way to make it where it's set up as if, like, because the way that it has to do with the midpoint of the movie, it has to do with the end of the movie. I see. Okay. The fact that it has to have something in the beginning. The movie has to start out with a shot of mushrooms or something. Like, it has to be so clear that this is the air that's hanging over the movie. There's got to be mushrooms on the wallpaper. There's got to be something in the movie that sets up very clear. There's only one scene where she's out halfway through the movie just picking things up in the woods, and they're like, these are the differences in mushrooms. You should read about it sometime. That's the big setup to the biggest plot point in the entire movie.
This is how she learns.
Yes.
To poison him. She was not going to ever be the first woman to poison her man.
No.
That is a well-worn trope that we've all used at one point or another.
And poison mushrooms has been a thing as well. Yeah.
Poison mushroom. I mean, I thought maybe he was going to hallucinate instead. I was kind of hoping for the good kind of mushroom.
Well, she was so sure that this was the right mushroom or whatever. But to me, I think the opening should have been the other.
You need to write your own movie about this thing because you're not going to fix this guy. It's going to be what it is.
The other lady should have had some. There should have been something with that lady of the Isn't that the point though, that the plot line is somewhat of a surprise, kind of bizarre? If you want to. I don't know. I run into this all the time with Paul Thomas Anderson. People love his movies, and I guess I don't. If you want to say I don't get it, fine. I just don't gel with the guy and how he tells his stories. I think that's it, and I'm fine with it. People love him, and they swear by this is one of the greatest films, and sure, we will not see eye to eye on that. I
didn't really have a problem with her. Finding out a way to keep him and not be thrown away by him, right?
Yeah.
So that she could hit that baseline. He wants his mommy, and I know how I can give him his mommy.
Yes,
the only way
yes. That part worked very well.
That totally made sense, and I could see where that's why she used the mushrooms.
Yes,
she could have used rat poison, but she would have killed him for sure. Mushrooms not going to kill you, but they're going to make you sick. I say that. Please don't anyone go out there and pick mushrooms and eat them because they can kill you if you eat enough of them.
Well, there was that whole story of the lady who, with the whole family, she poisoned that whole. That was in the news a few months back. Like she had a family dinner and she poisoned everybody with these mushrooms or whatever. Yeah. So it's
somebody who went out in the forest, picked some mushrooms and cooked them and ate them and got sicker than a dog. But yeah, you can literally kill yourself with them, but you don't want to do that. You can also have some great hallucinations with the right ones too.
Yeah.
But we don't want to go into that either. I didn't have an issue with them finding, because she was looking for a way to keep him. What I have an issue with is there was nothing about him that was worth keeping.
Yeah.
Run off with the doctor. Lord help me. Why stay with someone who is, brutal, right? As he was to her. Now, let me tell you the parts that I really love. The way they use sound.
We'll talk about I have some things I love too, but it's sound. Okay, go ahead. No, I'm saying go ahead. I'm ready to talk about all this stuff.
I hated the beginning of it where it was the piano music and it was real discordant. I hate that kind of. And then it went into the full orchestra and that was wonderful.
Yes.
But then, like when she was, buttering her toast, it was like they amplified all these sounds to make it show, how irritating that was to him.
And they did humor very well in this.
And as any time you date or live with somebody, there's going to be that moment where when they chew, you just want to slap the shit out of them because it's so noisy. And I thought that was perfect. It was so true to life in that sense.
I agree.
Sound can come across that way between two people.
And I thought, Daniel Lewis, excellent. It's ridiculous to even have to say he's one of the greatest actors of all time.
Just watching him, clip his eyebrows and his nose hairs was,
He was mesmerized, and he was 100%. It seems ridiculous to say this. He's 100% into the thing, and he does. He's just excellent. And he just looks. I think it's the coolest he's ever looked. I just love looking at him in this role, like the way his hair was and his bow tie and his suits. Oh my goodness!
Perfect.
Oh, I loved this. I love when he put on the white jacket to work in the thing, and they're all in white. I love a white suit. So he just looks so cool, and he's so aware of his lines and how he stands in these things, and he stands in these interesting ways. He just looks so cool. school, and he played it like, yeah, he's awful, but of course he is. That guy would be awful. Like that's
he's an artist.
Yeah,
he's an artist.
Yes.
But then when the women who are going to buy from him
Mm-hmm.
come in,
Mm-hmm.
he's just dashing and debonair and
Mm-hmm.
you know, everything you would want the guy who's making your dresses to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah.
Yes,
Love
but
that.
then like, I mean, I love the whole thing about the wedding with the lady. Like that was one of my favorite sections of the movie.
I know, that was wonderful.
And the fact that like that's just, it doesn't serve the plot really too much outside of like that she sticks up for him in this sort of public way and makes him like that was, I think, again, one of the things that played into the movie. Yeah, I mean, it had a lot to really love about it. I think it's one of my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movies, despite what I said about it. The mushrooms are the only thing I'd really fix about it. And then there's a lot of things I don't gel with him about. But I do think it's one of my favorites of his. I love Magnolia as well. That's the other one that I do like of his.
Oh yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that movie too.
And because I think it fits, like the weirdness is part of the movie, like that's the weird that those things come out of left field, but that's the point of the film. But it had a lot of interest. So the thing, I fell into this rabbit hole of like, because I was fascinated by the look of the film, of how So as I don't know if you know, you saw it was shot on film. It's shot on 35 millimeter, and what they did was. Well, first off, what I found interesting is this doesn't have his typical cinematographer, and he didn't shoot this film, and there is no cinematographer credited in this film.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
And what it is, and so people have speculated that he shot it himself, and that's become a whole debate. He's like, no, it's a team effort. So his typical gaffer and everything. He's supposedly it was a thing with both of them sort of working together on shooting it. And, but they called him the lighting cameraman. That's what the credit that the gaffer got. So it's weird that no one got the credit for cinematography in this movie. But yeah, so he did it all himself. So it's like one of these weird things like that is odd, that is strange. And, but they used this special, so it's called push processing. With how you process film. So they shot it underexposed. And so it's in this sort of process it's most well known from Barry Lyndon. I don't know if you ever saw that with the Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, where Kubrick wanted to shoot the entire film with natural light of its time, which was candlelight, which is very difficult for film to be shot with such low light of candlelight. So they underexpose it and then they push process it, which makes it kind of it blows it.
Sorry.
So what it does is it brings up the gain or the grain of the thing. It makes it really they shoot it really dark, and so they make it and then they blow up the grain. So this film's very grainy. It's very grainy because of the way that they process the film. And so they shot it under low light conditions, and then essentially brought up the exposure, if you want to sort of say it that way, in post, and made it very grainy. The other thing that they did is they did a lot of theatrical haze. So like they made all the rooms very hazy and everything. So it has this real textured quality to it that it's very grainy. They said they wanted to dirty up the frame. They really wanted it to be very tangible and the air to be very tangible and everything. So it's very kind of bright and grainy and everything for that reason. And so it has a very interesting look. They said the thing that they were very much trying not to look like was the crown. They didn't want to look like the crown.
Because it could easily do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the crown, what they're saying the difference is like the crown's, digital. It's very crisp. Mm-hmm. The whole idea is to sort of be very, and so like that, and they said they wanted to go in in this sort of opposite direction, shoot it on film, make it very, very grainy looking, and make it very textured. So yeah.
Well, it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I love that they used a 4-story building.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And the way that they shot down those steps just to show it made the seamstress jobs more arduous than they actually probably were. I mean, it was pretty horrible, every woman in this movie is treated horribly, except for, the I guess the countess. I didn't care for the princess's bridal gown at all.
Oh my God, no.
It was awful.
Well,
And
it is situated a very particular part of
well,
her
and
body.
maybe it's I was going to look to see if it at 1950s wedding dresses to see if it was really similar to someone else's, but and it could be, but yeah, when they had to recreate that, I was like, oh, do something different.
Well, he said right before he collapsed, this isn't working.
It's ugly. It's an ugly dress. And he was right. It was an ugly dress.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the dress.
Some of his designs were not like I didn't care for the very first dress that we saw. There was a few that were absolutely gorgeous, but it was weird. Like his style was. It wasn't an actual like single style that he used. Like he went. I guess the whole idea is like the idea is that he's kind of supposed to be more conservative than some of the other like up and coming fashion designers of the time. But still, though, they vary so wildly between each other that it was like if you didn't like that dress, the next one's going to be completely different. Like where some of them were like puffy and formal, and then other ones were very sleek, and so it was there was no unifying sense of style between his works. I didn't think, but still though beautiful. A lot of
but still in the realm
era.
of 1950s kind of look. The first
the era
dress, though,
was right.
Yeah, to me was like, okay, that's a throwback to the 1800s or 1700s, really. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, when they show her in it, when she walks into the ballroom, I guess that she's going into, well, yeah, it fits with where she was going.
That's true.
More so than the other dresses that were in that shot.
Yes.
So anyway, so that might be part of it.
That's
and
true.
Looking at 1950s dresses, that was in line with what you see.
Yeah. No, I think it was of this era.
It was just ugly.
Yes. Yeah. So would you recommend people watching this movie, Diane?
I would. I thought it was interesting, and I kind of love the fact that, she brought him down to, she took his knees right out from under him and made him into a baby. It was a surprise to me. The first time she did it, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a process. And then when he fell in love with her over the whole thing, I was like, oh my God. Is this what they're going to be? And it's absolutely what they're going to be.
Because you thought that you knew that he was understanding what was happening, but you were like, so then you were like, well, then how is this going to play out? And so it's the surprise is that you realize that he's 100% in it, so that's and so it's
give me that omelet with mushrooms in it. Let me kiss you before I get sick.
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that what he says?
That is what he says. Yeah.
And in the scene before that, he wanted to divorce her. He wanted out. So this is how their life is going to be. Like I said, two narcissists not only pass in the night, but literally run into each other.
Yeah.
Because what kind of ego is on her to do that? Yeah.
Ava said, I would recommend it. I like the plot twists, the ultimate in dysfunctional relationship. Yeah. Would I recommend it? I think that it has a lot of positives to do it. I mean, I think it's not my cup of tea, but it does have a lot of positives that I really liked. I love this world. I mean, I think that I think had I have not seen Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which is the same Lesley Manville's in it.
I wish I'm going to watch that now because I love this world.
Yes.
That they gave us.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if I had knew nothing about the fashion world and everything, like, and all that, like, this would have been a bigger deal to me because I really do love this world. And so if you do like that and want something that's a little bit more commercial and a little bit more general audience friendly, go watch Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. It's Lesley Manville who is the sister in this. She plays this lower class lady who buys this dress. It's great. I don't want to spoil anything with it. But she goes into like upper end society and goes to these fashion houses of the time of 1950s London, and it's very much the same thing. You see them wearing the dress coming through there and seeing people buying dresses and all that. And it's really walk through all the different steps that happens in these fashion houses and these seamstresses and all of that. So it's very much of its time, and it's a beautiful film. So go and watch that movie. It's really fun. I think you would you would like it, Diane, a lot, I think. And
Yes, I love the world they
yes,
created. Love the beginning of it where they're marching up and down these steps and trying to get. I mean,
Yes.
it's just beautiful.
and it almost seems like it was shot in the same place. It was just odd, sort of watching it in the different. Like it was very, very, very similar the way that it was all done. And so I'd recommend watching that if you like that. And then Halston, Ewan McGregor and the documentary of Halston. So I've kind of been in this, given that's 70s America, but it's, there's obviously still some, similarities in the thing. And I'm very invested in the Halston story.
Too bad you've watched these.
Yes.
We could have made that 2 movies for next season.
So Halston was a mini series on Netflix with Ewan McGregor, and then Halston the documentary, which we haven't done documentaries on here before, but I love that documentary. If you haven't ever seen it, go watch that. It's a CNN documentary, so it might be on Max. I don't know what it's on actually, but I would love to do a movie about Halston. That when I watched the documentary, it's right there, and then they did the mini series, and I was like, okay, it's Ryan Murphy, it's Ewan McGregor. That's going to be great. And I don't think they hit the nail on the head with that. So maybe someday in the future I'll do a Halston movie, because I love that story, and I love Halston. He's interesting, and he puts on his own story, and I think Halston's just one of the most American stories that there is, and I love that so much. That's Phantom Thread. Did I say I recommend it? Sure. I think I said I wouldn't, but I'll change it now. Sure, watch it. It has some fun things, and it's well worth seeing Daniel Day-Lewis. It's well worth seeing the costumes. It's well worth seeing the cinematography. It's an interesting looking film that has some sort of weird things in it, but I just enjoyed seeing Daniel Day-Lewis in all of these different things and all the dresses he made. That's worth the admission price. I ended up being more positive than I thought I was going to. So that's Phantom Thread. Now, join us as we head into preview time.
And now, preview time. When it comes to entertainment, you can't beat a good film. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Well, what is coming our way?
This is our last episode of the season, as we said earlier, so nothing for the rest of the year, 2023. You're probably watching this next year, most people will. But so it's the end of season 4 at Elle Feature Movie Club. We won't be, so stay tuned in the coming weeks for our best and worst of list. That's my favorite episode of the year, where we look back on this season and we say our favorite films that we watched and our least favorite film. We're only doing one this year. So stay tuned for that. I love that episode. I think you do too, Diane, right? Best and worst episodes.
Oh, it always amazes me. The film I hate the most is the one you love the most. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out this time.
I'm interested to see what you think's the worst film that we did, because we're only doing one, and we'll talk about that in that episode. But we only did 10 episodes this season. It's less than we typically do. So we did 20 movies. To me, it seemed unfair to sort of some of the other ones that had low. It's like, it's unfair to say it's one of the worst films we've seen, because we've watched a lot of great films this season. I thought
we did, yeah. It was hard to pick a bad, yeah.
And we watched a lot of, I think, run of the mill. I don't know if I'm supposed to say run of the mill. We watched a lot of middle of the road movies where it's like they're good.
Yeah, they were fine.
They were fine. So it seems mean to say they're bad. So we lowered it to our least favorite, and I'm okay with saying my least favorite is bad. So we'll talk about, so be on the lookout for that. As far as the new season goes, we will return in mid-February for a brief run, and then we'll we'll kind of walk through how we're doing the new season and everything. But what I really liked about this season, we had a lot of new movies mixed with a lot of movies that paired well with them, and we watched a lot of interesting things and a variety of different shows. So we're going to plan to do that again in the new season. And I think we can announce now that we do plan on doing a Oscar special. So be on the lookout for that for this in the new season when that comes around. We'll be live during the Oscars and talking about 2 films that relate to that. So.
And I'm assuming you're wearing a tux, so I can ask, who are you wearing?
Yeah, I'll say, wearing Armani, yeah.
Yeah.
Halston, I'm wearing Halston.
Coco, wearing Coco.
Mm-hmm.
Coco Chanel, whatever.
Halston's such a great story. If you, I don't know, I keep saying that.
I know. I was trying to real quickly look for the CNN documentary, right?
The CNN documentaries,
because there's a bunch of documentaries about this guy.
Yeah, that one's it's CNN. I think it might be a joint with CNN and HBO, or because they do some of those things. So, but it's technically a CNN film and everything. Okay. So yeah, it's that one's, and then the Netflix show. Yeah, that's.
I have to find it. Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't. It has a better ending. I don't know why they. Whatever. The documentary somehow has a better thematic ending to his story than the 8-part miniseries.
Have we moved on?
We have moved on. Sorry, we have moved on. So be on the lookout for that and everything. It's really fun, and that's the end of our season. I really enjoyed doing this with you, Diane. I love doing this show. It's a highlight of my week a lot of times, so I enjoy it.
I enjoy being your ride or die on this podcast. Mm-hmm. Cade, because I watch a movie and then I think about the movie and then I hear what Cade has to say about the movie, and sometimes you change my mind about movies. Not often, but you do. Mm-hmm. And I love watching movies with you to get your take on the era. Like today with the 20th century women, because I lived that era, right? And to hear you talk about it, it's just, I love that. It's just fascinating to me. And it's one of the reasons why I like doing this podcast with you. It's so refreshing to get your take on what's history to you. I mean, let's face it, this is like ancient history to you. 70s, 50 years ago, right? So it's like really old.
So I previously to this week I had to do an at-home COVID test, and I felt like that was I was doing science experiments with that, and then but seeing the pregnancy test, I'm like, it's nothing compared to that.
Nothing compared to a 1979 pregnancy test. Let me tell you. And you had to wait a while before you could even try it. Not like today, where you could just be on the stick, the next day.
Well, it came in a box. It was just blown away by this whole.
Had a test tube. You had a little thing you had to pee into, and then pour that into the test tube. Oh yeah, it was a science.
And the fact that it wasn't, it still wasn't even that clear because you had to just have a ring. Like it wasn't like it wasn't. Yeah. I was like,
a ring at the bottom of the test tube or not, and it's not like a color or anything. It's just a ring. And of course, she had to have him look because she just couldn't do it. Yeah.
That was one that I was just completely
and you had to use the very first, you couldn't just pee into the cup. Mm-hmm. It had to be the first urine of the day. Oh, so you know how stinky you could be asparagus at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always so much fun to watch these kind of movies with you and get your take on them now because of that. Because it's like, to me, it's like, oh yeah, Puck died that year. Yeah, I remember that. And you're like, but Puck.
What I find, just
talking heads are wonderful. Whoa, no, yeah.
What I like sort of seeing with you when we talk about it is like, I always think I know what you're going to like about something, but then it's like always interesting, like your opinion. Like I can never really 100% know if you're going to love or dislike something. So that's always unique, and you bring something to it. I'm like, that was not the way I was viewing that film at all, and I love that we sort of are able to sort of have different opinions and everything. And I like that we don't talk about beforehand what our thoughts are. I think that always brings in good
and
conversation.
sometimes it's really hard because we'll
hard.
watch a movie and be, oh my, I got to talk to Cade about this.
Mm-hmm.
I have to, and then we can't.
Yeah.
And then Jennifer tells us that's the best part of this is hearing the two of you talk about a movie for the first time, because she was the first one to witness it, I guess, because she had to deal with it every time she saw us.
Well, oftentimes the worst part with like other podcasts is like you hear them like, well, okay, like we said before, wait, was that on the show? You'll hear that of like that, like, because it's so I'm very that's just one of those things. I'm like I can't say anything because I don't want. I think it's not good for the audience for one thing to sort of feel like they miss part of a conversation or whatever with that.
Right. It's okay to say, oh, we went to dinner at the Palace Cafe.
We can have lives outside of this. We can have other conversations.
Ava came to Tulsa to visit a couple of times, and I took her to the Palace Cafe one time. We had lamb, and she doesn't remember it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went to one of the first times I went to the Palace Cafe.
And you had this time, you had the tenderloins, and then I had sea bass, which I love the sea bass. It was really good. Yeah.
We have to, it's too bad it's closed now.
It's gone forever.
And when you're finally over the dredges of COVID, we'll have to find someplace else to partake.
Well, that's the show. Thanks for joining us for season 4 of Don't Feature Movie Club. Like I said, stay tuned for the best and worst of movies, because those are really great, and we'll see you when we return. Oh, be sure to follow us. That's where I should say for the exact date of when we return for season 5. Like I said, it'll be maybe late February. But yeah, look out for that. That'll be on our social media channels at Double Feature MC. That's on Instagram, Threads, X. So follow us there, and we'll be sure to announce beforehand when we return and what movies we're watching for that time. So yeah, and if you have any suggestions, any recommendations that we should add to our list, be sure to send us that. It can be new releases that are coming around that time period, or it can be any movies that you think would be really cool for us to review. So like us, share, subscribe. What should they do, Diane, when they see us anywhere?
Click all the buttons.
Click
all the buttons. Leave a review.
Yes.
Click all the buttons, and we'll see you next year.
See you next year. Bye.
Bye.